um if it dies out, then at least my part will already be up there.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's recording, so you could go.
Okay, hi, my name is Tanasia Butler. For chapter 13 this week, I'll talk about the differences between gender equality and politics and how it was in the past and how it is now. So, as you guys know, in the past, women didn't have many rights at all. We weren't able to vote. There was a time they didn't want us going to college. They didn't want us on their boards, like Congress and everything. And now recently, like, of course, we've been able to do more. We've been given the ability to vote. We've been given the ability to sit on Congress. But I still feel as though we still have many limitations and restrictions, and it's not working. What the hell? Oh my gosh. So yeah, as of right now, there's still many limitations and restrictions on everything and how we can move within Congress. We're sitting on Congress, we're able to vote, and we still don't have much say so. So, for instance, in the article, well, in our textbook on page 380, on page 383, there was this one little passage that kind of spoke to me in a sense. It says, it goes into 384, but what it's basically talking about, it says before the 2016 US election, no one could have imagined a candidate like Trump, the same person who insulted women, their bodies, their faces, etc. But prior to Trump, neither the Republicans or Democratic candidates spoke in this way. That really spoke to me because it just shows how much our world is not any different than in the 70s, 80s, and that era. So there's really not much difference. No one really is concerned about who's in office, who are our leaders. That's basically my thing. Trump was our leader for a long time, and he really defaced women, and no one was concerned about that because he's still in office. We had a Me Too movement, and it was basically like ridiculed and laughed at by a lot of our leaders, and like it just goes to show, like, no one really cares too much about, like, even with us sitting in the seat, we still don't have a face, if that makes any sense. So like, we can show front, but that's only because they have to put us in a seat to shut us up. We're still not able to do too much. We're still not able to make too many decisions. What is the word I'm looking for? Like, basically, we can't do much, and it's quite sad to me. I don't feel like there's too much of a difference from now in the past eras where women weren't allowed to vote. So that was my topic for this week.
Yeah, it's a definitely a growing issue still to this day. It's not something that has changed very much. You're very right in that aspect. Like, I feel like, yes, women are being represented a little bit more in politics. We have our first woman of color as a vice president, and that's incredible, and that's something that we should be very proud of. But it's one of those things where it'll be something special when I actually see a woman get the ability to really make a big decision in our government. So that will, yeah, absolutely. Well, kind of on the topic of not much being changed, I'm talking about social movements. My name is Marissa Salazar, and this week I decided to talk about something that was actually kind of brought upon me by Joe Kino, but I decided to talk about how difficult it is for gay men to donate blood in the United States and many other parts around the world. I started with a little bit of background on the AIDS, HIV crisis that happened in the 80s, where there was a very large outbreak of the AIDS virus, and it was mostly discriminatorily associated with gay men. And from that point until 2015, gay men did not have the right to donate blood until there were provisions made allowing them to donate blood as long as they were abstinent for 12 months. And that is obviously incredibly unrealistic for a gay man who is participating in sexual activity, especially if they are in a committed relationship, which should be recognized as normal at this point. But it's still been very difficult for gay men to have the right to donate blood. During the shooting in Orlando at the Pulse nightclub, many gay men spoke up and wanted to do their part in aiding towards a crisis, and they all tried to donate blood, and there was a lot of discrimination outpour in that aspect. There were quite a few protests involved, and as we all know, in 2020 we have the coronavirus outbreak, and many people who have beat coronavirus are deciding to donate plasma to help sick people fight the virus. And the FDA decided in May that they were going to allow gay men to donate plasma as long as they had been abstinent for 3 months. But there are still many facilities that are denying them of that right, stating that they don't recognize the new provisions that the FDA has put in place. And so obviously it is a much bigger issue than a health issue. And there have been many research studies that state there's really no difference in a healthy gay man's blood than there is in any other person's blood. And there are a lot of risks that heterosexual people face when it comes to contracting HIV/AIDS. And that is still poorly recognized in Western society. But it's good news that there are other parts of this world that are implementing equal rights when it comes to donating blood. Places like Spain, Italy, Brazil have decided that the screening process for blood donation will completely disregard sexuality and allow individuals to be screened on a sexual health level, regardless of the partner that they choose to engage with. So there are some positive things happening in the world, but in 2020 in the United States, there has been a crisis for blood and for the donations of plasma. And if we, could recognize a little bit further, what the issue is at hand, hopefully with a new look on our government, looking forward to 2021, that'll be something recognized a little bit more deeply.
I mean, as Marissa said, we were actually texting about LGBTQ plus rights because she said that that's what she wanted to do this week. And I mentioned that because I actually did a huge project on it in high school, and I did like a whole bunch of research, and they test every single blood donation for every sexually transmitted disease that they're afraid that gay men are going to give them. So it's absolutely just systematic discrimination, and it's just pure discrimination. There's no other reason for it. So hi, I'm Joaquina. So I decided to talk about the 2016 election. So I basically talked about, in short, I talked about where I was when I heard that Trump won, because honestly, I couldn't believe it. I thought Clinton had it in the bag. And I mean, even she thought that she had it in the bag. Like, I remember in the debate, she did that shoulder shimmy. Love it. But I literally ran into my parents' room and I was like, Trump won. I don't know what to say. I was 16. I didn't really understand the implications of him winning because I was still very young. But I was very into politics, and I know a lot of people who did support Trump, especially since in my area of Connecticut, it's extremely Republican. And even the area that I live in right now. So I live half the year in a place called the Villages, Florida, and he was here. He was actually playing golf because I don't know if you know, but the Villages is a golf community that has like the Arnold Palmer like golf course. Like it's very yeah. So he was actually here playing golf and he did like a speech and like this is Trump haven over here, like 80% Republican, like pure. So I just wanted to talk about some of the reasons why I think he won other than sexism, because I think that the book put like too much on sexism and not like a lot of the other things that were going on at the time. So I just wanted to address that. The first thing that was going on was PC culture kind of started in that during that time, and a lot of Americans didn't like that because PC culture has kind of become a little bit toxic. I think the problem is with a lot of these things is it started off with good intentions, but now it's if you say or do something even slightly wrong or someone could take it slightly offensive, you're canceled, you're done, which isn't good. We need to educate people. You need to say, hey, this is why I'm upset. Let's use this as an example, and you're not going to lose your job. I mean, I've heard so many stories of people saying something in like 2010 that everyone laughed at, and then now it came back to bite them in the butt, and then they get canceled, which is ridiculous. So again, I think it's had good intentions, bad consequences. We need to stop cancel culture. But and then another reason is simply because the PC culture. Another reason is also Clinton had a ridiculous amount of scandals, like crazy amounts of scandals that literally she had a scandal that probably impacted every single population in the United States. So like personally, the Benghazi scandal is the one that like upsets me the most. And it could definitely be seen as scary to someone who's voting. And that's probably why she didn't get a lot of military votes. But there's like literally, I posted a picture of all of her scandals. This is just some of them. But, I think it's a real disservice to Democrats to not acknowledge that she just wasn't a great candidate. Because although she was a woman and we do need women representation, we do need that. We really need that. She just wasn't the right person. And I think it's a disservice to Democrats to not acknowledge that and use that to get a better candidate than to just blame it on sexism and racism. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because Biden actually got a pretty large military vote. And so, yeah, I feel like that had a huge weight. And obviously we know a lot now about the way that the Electoral College works and the popular vote works. And I remember feeling very certain that she was going to win as well. And the night Trump got elected for me was like a nightmare. I was living in Boston at the time, and I was going to an incredibly liberal music school. And we literally stormed the streets that night. Like it was a very interesting place to be at that time. We mourned the next day during classes. Like it was scary. I watched my gay roommate sob that evening. Like, so, it's
definitely traumatizing.
Yeah, it was a really scary time. And I still don't feel very easy in our current situation either. I think there's so much uncertainty right now. And we feel like we kind of like escaped something, but it's still very uncertain for a lot of people. So yeah, politics is definitely taking an interesting turn.